Hello everybody, this is Kathy Kipping from the Sewing Palace here in Helena, Montana, and today I want to talk to you about our Quilters Block 2021, and this year's theme is a pop of color, and I'm really excited about this pattern because it was created by staff members here and put together with some of our unique landscape visible here in the Montana area. So it's a really beautiful design. I think, maybe I'm a little biased because I work here, but I think it is a beautiful design. In the kits, we do have a very unique feature. We have in here what we call our MODtana fabrics, and they were specially screen printed by a local textile artist for us to use in our kits, and we actually have other fabrics of his in our store as well. But I'll go into the kit and show you the fabrics in this in just a minute. I do want to point out that we do have a correction in our patterns, and it has to do with our Flying Geese unit. They are going to finish at 1.5 by 3 and unfinished 2 by 3.5. So that's important to know when you are trimming your Flying Geese units, that you do pay attention to this brightly colored orange postcard because it does tell you the difference from the pattern. But let's talk about the kit that we have, and we do still have some available, so they are kind of going fast, and this is a unique fabric that we have in here, but it has been carefully cultivated, and as you can see, he's got in here screen printed motifs based on his visualization of Montana scenery around the area. So we do have them that are unique into this kit, so that's kind of an exciting feature that is exclusive to our store. So you want to quickly get the kits if you want to incorporate this screen printed fabrics into your MODtana block. So the blocks will finish at 18 by 18 if you want to do the square, or you can do side by side, and it shows that in the pattern, and that will finish at a 9 by 36. So you do have options. But anyway, kits are still available, like I said, and come and get your pattern. The patterns are free, so they run until August 31st. So anyway, so now I kind of want to talk about some of the cutting in here, and it's really made up of half square triangles and flying geese, and very key to using block lock rulers so that they trim up very nicely into the size squares that you need for the block. So let me clean my space, and I'll be right back, and we'll start cutting. Okay, so let's talk about cutting of our fabrics. It's really just primarily half square triangles and then a flying geese, and your flying geese are the ones with the pop of colors, which is gold in our kit and what we have chosen in our pattern. To get the gradiated look of the mountains, it's very important that you do pair your fabrics together. So in our case, we're going to have the black paired with the dark gray, and then the light gray grunge with the light gray screen print, and then the light gray screen print with the white cream background. And that will get you step up through the gradient mountains, and then your flying geese will be up at the top, and then you'll have the cream with the white for the very top of your block. So I have already gone ahead and paired mine together so that I can remember that they go together. And then for the half square triangles, these are all cut 4¼ inch square because we're going to sew them and trim them with our block lock. So I've gone ahead and cut these, and then drawn a line across the center of the square, and I did it on the lighter of the squares, and with my friction pen. And I love this little quarter ruler because it allows me to mark a center line as I line up my points. And I've done that on all of these squares. Now, this pattern is also very AccuQuilt friendly. It uses the 6-inch cube, mix and match cube, and I've pulled the number 5 die, which is the one that will do the 3-inch finished half square triangles. We've cut pieces of fabric that are 5 1/4 by 4 1/4, and with AccuQuilt you can lay 6 layers on your die, and then you'll get 12 pieces cut. So let's see if I can do this backwards. And it's a really simple process to get your squares cut in no time at all. And then all you will have to do is, again, paying attention to color, is black with the darker gray, and you're just going to sew these have the notches on here, so all you're going to do is sew a 1/4 of an inch seam, press it, and you'll have a beautifully done half square triangle. So the other thing is the pop of color is our flying geese, and for our pattern we're going to use the no waste method, and this is really a good method that you could use all in a lot of blocks that you have flying geese, and because it makes 4 at a time, which is fantastic. So we've cut the goose in the 4 1/4 square, and then our sky, these are 2 7/8 squares. And then you lay them corner to corner like this, and then you're going to draw your line down the center, because this is going to be technically your cut line, because you're going to sew 1/4 of an inch side to side on this line. And then we'll get that sewn, and I'll show you how to put the other 2. But we really do have some good instructions in the pattern. So, and it's nice color, because I think sometimes color really helps you, to me, identify the look of what it should, end up with. So we do have really good instructions. So now that I've got these marked, I think we're ready to sew. So let me get set up for my sewing machine, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my sewing machine set up, and I'm going to go ahead and start on my half square triangles. So again, I want to make sure that I've got my 2 fabrics lined up correctly. So I've got my gray grunge here with my light gray screen printed fabric, and as you can see, here is my center line to mark where I am going to sew a 1/4 inch off of that mark. So I'm using my 57 foot because I love that foot, and I know it has the guide on it, so that's really why I like it, because it keeps me straight, even though sometimes I get a little wonky. So I'm going to sew this real quick, and I'm a big chain piecer, so I will, a lot of times, especially when I'm doing a lot of half square triangles, is I will chain them together. Take my dark square. I do tend to use a little bit of cheater when I'm doing a half square triangle, because what I can do is it makes it so it's easy for me to turn around. So I can just turn my 2 pieces that I've got here around like that and continue sewing. Okay, so now we're going to sew the flying geese unit. And so I've got my gold, which is my goose, and then I have the little white 2 5/8 squares on top of it, and I've drawn the line corner to corner to mark where I'm going to sew. And again, with these, similar to the half square triangle, you're going to sew a 1/4 inch from that marked line on both sides. I'm going to use my little cheater piece to turn my corner again. Okay, so we have started on our blocks. So let me show you about cutting these and then trimming them to get them to the size that we want to for our rows. So I'm going to kind of pivot over here to show you the cutting. Okay, so I have my half square triangle here, and I have sewn the 2 lines, and I'm going to cut down the center where I've actually marked the line. I love using these little creative grid rulers, and we do have Sewing Palace exclusive rulers, so these are always, for me, a quick little ruler to use when I'm trimming the blocks. So you just want to cut down there, and that's kind of what your half square triangles will look like. And then I'm going to give it a quick press. Okay, so we're going to press our half square triangles, and what you want to do is press your triangle to the dark side. We want to go to the dark side on these. And even though this is screen printed fabric, there is no worry about pressing on the actual print of the fabric. So it's been, I think, the process of when they create the fabrics or screen print the fabrics, that they are already set into the background fabric. So you don't have to worry about thinking that you might wreck the design on that, but because you won't. So, and as you can see, I am pressing directly on my screen printed fabric, and it's not coming off on my iron, and it's not coming off on me or the mat here, so that's always nice. So I'm just going to give all these a quick press, and then we can get them trimmed, take off the little tags here and get them to the size they need to be. This one's the dark one. There it is. Okay, so I have those half square triangles pressed. Now, what I do want to do is then show you about the flying geese. So I do need to cut along the line here on the flying geese that we sewed earlier. So I'm going to do that real quick. And you're going to come away with 2 partial geese. And so what you want to do is iron those, flip them out, and you can start to see how they're going to lay out. They're starting to come together. then what you want to do is, let me get these half square triangles out of here. I'm going to flip over here. Is you're going to take your two other, okay, so now you're going to take your another 2 5/8 white square, and you're going to lay it on this opposite corner of what you've already sewn and pressed. You're going to mark, oops, let me grab my marker here. Here we go. Down the center of this square, like you did on the other ones. I'm going to line that up. Here's my center. Okay, so we are going to sew down the line that we just marked, 1/4 inch on both sides. So let's go and do a real quick sew here. Use my little cheaters to make it an easy pivot. Oops, got a little off kilter there. That's okay. Okay. Quit my threads. So now what you're going to do is we're going to cut down this center line like we did previously. And then you're going to press, and you can see you've got 2 geese out of this one square here. This is a fun way to make flying geese, especially if you're doing a lot of them. I do like flying geese. I don't know what it is. There's something about maybe the zenness of creating flying geese. So there's our geese. So now let's trim these real quick using our block lock ruler so you can see what that is going to look like. So we'll do the geese first, since that's what we have just sewn. And I have my 1.5 by 3 finished flying geese block lock ruler. And the nice thing about the block locks is they fit snugly into your seam. So all you're doing is you're sliding and basically locking in place your where you're going to trim. Okay, so we're just going to do a quick trim around the top, the side and the top, and then I'm using a pivot mat, which is really nice because then you're not having to lift your block. So then you can just pivot it around and do, again, the side and the top. Oops, I didn't catch that quite. And as you can see, you have a beautifully finished, this will be 2 and 3.5 because unfinished, because when you say finished, that means after it is sewn within your block. But you can see how nicely that trims your flying geese. And again, it just slides nicely into the block that you've just sewn. Trim, trim. Okay, we're going to slide again. I love this mat. I think I need to get me one. Make sure I cut that. Oop, went off a little kilter there. And so these will be ready to sew together. So I'll just lay those right there. Okay, so we're going to trim our half square triangles, and we want to get them trimmed to a 3.5 by 3.5 not finished, a 3.5 by 3.5 square. So I've got the 3.5 block lock ruler, and again, this one slides like the flying geese right along your seam, and you can see it centers nicely on your block here, so that all you have to do is cut and trim up your block nicely. And then again, we're going to pivot. I'm going to pivot this way. There we go. And then you have a nicely trimmed 3.5 inch square that you're going to use in your row. So let's see, let's try one of those again. So it just kind of slides right in. And then trim, trim. Let's rotate my mat. And I've got another 3.5 square nicely trimmed triangle. So then once you have all of your half square triangle and geese put together, we're going to want to create the rows. Now you should end up with 6 half square triangle units for each color gradation that you have. And then you're going to have 12 flying geese units. So let's look at what our rows are going to look like. So I'll be right back. Okay, so once we have constructed all of our half square triangle blocks as well as our flying geese units, we are ready to combine the rows. Now I have to lay this out because otherwise I will sew them incorrectly and my mountains will not be mountains. They will be jig-jags of nothing. So anyway, what I've done is I have laid out my finished half square triangle blocks down here at the bottom, and starting with the dark black to the dark gray, I've got my first row, and as you can start to see the mountains build as you lay these out. So if you see that, then you know you're pointing them in the right direction. So I've got my black to my dark gray, and then my dark gray to the medium gray, and see, you can see my mountains, and then my medium gray to my very light gray, and then my light gray to my white. So here is the bottom portion of our mountains, and then the geese are all going in the same direction. Now we did kind of play a little bit because this year's theme for Quilters Trek is a pop of color. We did alternate some of the geese with the gold going the different way. So I don't know if you like that or not. You can let us know if you want to make a comment about it, or that they should all be the same. But we're just kind of playing around with that to see how that's going to turn out. And then the very top again is your light cream to your white, which is the tip top of the snow-covered mountains with your white sky up here. So now what we want to do is I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm really just going to combine the half square triangles together to make one row. So I'm going to go ahead and sew those together, 1/4 inch seam, and sew those real quick. So you can see that now I've put these together and all of my mountains are going in the right direction, which is great for me. So we're going to give those a quick press, and then I'm going to start to sew my second row. The second row is now sewn together, so we're going to give that one a quick press. And what you want to do when you do press them, and I had my lovely assistant press this one for me while I was sewing, and these seams are all going to the right. So when we press this one, we want them to all go to the left. That way they'll butt up together. So Kinsey's going to press that real quick, and we'll just kind of keep this one here for now. And I'll start on my third row while she's doing that. So now with our second row nicely pressed, what we're going to do is just lay right sides together, and you can see the seams are going in the opposite direction. So you're just going to butt your seams together, and sometimes I like to pin mine really quickly because I don't want them to shift while I'm sewing. So, but I do take my pins out before the needle gets close, because you do not want to sew with pins in it. So I'm just going to pin my seams together. There's my row. So now just a 1/4 inch seam down the side here. first 2 rows put together. So as again, you can see the mountains are starting to form with the different gradients of the colored fabric. So then you will just continue to add on to your rows to complete your block. And then the geese, all you're going to do is join the geese, point to long end of the gold here, and sew a 1/4 of an inch seam. And you're just going to continue sewing your geese to join all 12 of them in one straight line, and then create your row and then keep adding until you complete the 18 by 18 block. Okay, so I have attached my lower mountain strips. So I've got them all put together and pressed, and I went ahead and I have got all my flying geese units sewn together. I decided that I was going to do the reverse layout of the geese and have more of the gold and show on here instead of what I was doing before. So I'm going to just attach the geese to the tops of these mountains, and again I'm butting the seams so that they will all come out nicely. Now, not all the geese are going to have butted seams, but the majority of them, or actually half of them, will. So every 2 geese will do that. So I'm going to do my pins in here, and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch and get them on here. And I've also already sewn my top line of the half square triangle, so I've got that row completed as well. So that can just go on the geese as soon as we've got them sewn here. So we will get that done. Kind of excited about the look of the reverse geese. Have more of the gold in here. I decided not to use to mix match the MODtana, because I know I had earlier blocks with MODtana and these do not. So again, these are, you could make these this Quilters Trek out of any fabric that you like. You don't necessarily have to stick to these colors, or if you like these colors, they work out well. Give that a little press. Okay, now it's time for my final row. Now let's give it a quick final press. Okay, and now, as you can see, we have got the 18 by 18 block completed. This is a quick and easy. I hope you enjoy doing. I just have square triangles and some flying geese. Now, I do want to point out that if you were going to make the 9 by 36 inch block, row actually, then it would look a little bit different, and the final construction would be a little bit different, because essentially what you would do is you would sew this right here first, and then sew the second part next to it, and there are clear instructions in the pattern on how you want to do that. So it would just essentially, you're not having this top layer, you're just going to have it next to here. But I kind of like it all together, because my final version is going to be done into a pillow, which is what our sample was made out of. And what we used was the Timberland fabric to add a border to make it a bigger pillow around here and then on the back. This is beautiful fabric. So anyway, this is, I'm going to do a pillow as well for mine, because I want to put it in our new travel trailer. So anyway, so I do want to take a moment to talk about the pattern that we used in the flying geese units. So our pattern has you create your flying geese units using the no waste method and trimming with block lock. You do, if you don't want to do the no waste method, you do have a couple of options. So I can walk you through what those options are. So if you, like myself, like to have, to be able to trim down your flying geese unit, using your block lock ruler, when you buy a block lock ruler, you get a nice little chart that tells you the size of fabrics that you need to cut for the finished size of your flying geese unit. So for our flying geese unit, it is going to be a 3 by 1.5 finished flying geese unit. So what you're going to want to cut is a 2 1/4 by 2 1/4 inch squares. You want 2 of those, and then a 2 1/4 by 3 3/4 rectangle. Sorry, I've got the wrong ones. So here you have it a little bit bigger. So what I'll do is I will sew those quickly together so I can demonstrate just doing a single flying geese or goose at a time. And you'll want to trim 1/4 inch after you have sewn. Sorry, to back you up just a little bit, you do want to mark down the center line, and then you're going to sew 1/4 inch from that line, and then you're going to trim the other side of it. So you're actually wasting a little bit more fabric when you do this type of flying geese unit. So here's our one side, and I'm just kind of going to finger press this. And then this one, I've already marked the line, so I'm going to add that on this side. Make sure I point my marks the same way. And we're going to trim this side as well, 1/4 inch, and throw this piece away. And then I'm just going to finger press this so you can see. Now what you can do is trim this using the Flying Geese block lock ruler. And you still end up with a nice crisp Flying Geese. The other option is more of the flip and sew. So the measurements for this one is you want to cut a 3.5 by 2 inch rectangle and then two 2 by 2 inch squares. And you're going to mark them corner to corner. And then you're going to sew a 1/4 inch from that line. And then these as well, you're going to trim 1/4 inch. Trim off that thread and then throw that away. And then I'm going to finger press this as well. And then my second square here, make sure it goes the right way. And then sew 1/4 inch on from the line. Nope. Nope, I don't have that right. There we go. Oops, nope. Ooh, I did not do that right. Because I'm sewing it wrong. I need to sew on the line. Okay. All right, so I'm doing the other side now, and I got my second square there, so I'm going to sew on the line. Cut off my other side 1/4 inch. And there is your traditional flip and sew flying goose unit. So you won't be able to trim this because, as you can see, it doesn't fit in the ruler. But anyway, there are options that you have if you do not want to follow the pattern and do the no waste. So I just kind of wanted to demonstrate a couple of those alternatives for you. So hopefully this demonstration has helped, and you'll end up with an 18 by 18 or a 9 by 36 Quilters Trek 2021 Sewing Palace exclusive block to be either put into a pillow or a wall hanging, or put them into a quilt with other Quilters Treks 2021s from the other quilt stores. So hopefully, oh, by the way, and we still, like I said earlier, do have kits available with our exclusive MODtana fabrics, so you'll want to get those quickly. And then we also have the free pattern, and all of that is available through August 31st. So get yours quickly. So anyway, thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.